There are moments when silence becomes louder than any words ever spoken, and this is one of those moments. For nearly 2 weeks, the world waited. No statements, no explanations, no denial, just silence. A silence that raised more questions with every passing day, because when a family that has spent years in the public eye suddenly says nothing, people start to wonder, what are they not saying? What are they trying to protect? And what really happened behind closed doors? Then finally, after days of growing pressure, they spoke. But what they said, and more importantly, what they didn't say, has left people more unsettled than ever. This all began when shocking allegations surfaced involving Joseph Duggar, allegations so serious, they immediately triggered a wave of concern, outrage, and painful déjà vu, because for many, this didn't feel like a news story. It felt like history, repeating itself. As news broke, the public reaction was instant. Confusion turned into concern, and concern quickly turned into something deeper, a quiet, uneasy recognition. People had seen this before, and the question on everyone's mind was simple: would this time be any different? But while the world waited for answers, something unexpected happened. The silence didn't break from the top. It broke from within. One by one, members of the younger generation began to speak out, and their words were anything but vague. They didn't hide behind soft language, they didn't avoid the issue, they called it what it was: disturbing, unacceptable, unthinkable. They spoke about the victim, they spoke about accountability. They spoke with a level of clarity that many people had been waiting years to hear, and in doing so, they unintentionally made the silence of others even louder, because while they were speaking openly, their parents remained completely quiet. No immediate response. No urgent statement, nothing. And as each day passed, the pressure only grew stronger. Behind the scenes, the situation became even more complicated, because this wasn't just about one person. Joseph's wife, Kendra, was also facing serious questions, adding another layer of concern to an already disturbing situation. And suddenly, this wasn't just a scandal. It became something much bigger. A moment of truth. A test of how this family would respond, not just publicly, but morally. Then finally, after nearly 2 weeks, the silence ended. A statement was released, carefully written, measured, controlled. They spoke about heartbreak, they mentioned faith, they asked for prayers, but something was missing, something important. Because while the situation demanded clarity, the response felt cautious. Where others had been direct, this felt distant. Where others had sent to the victim, this spoke more about family pain, and that difference did not go unnoticed. Almost instantly, people began comparing, not just the words, but the tone. Not just what was said, but what was avoided. Because in moments like this, vagueness isn't neutral. It sends a message, and many people felt that message loud and clear. Online reactions poured in, some expressed sympathy, others expressed disappointment, but one theme kept repeating: why does this feel familiar? Because this isn't the first time this family has faced serious allegations involving a child, and in the past, their response was heavily criticized. Back then, many felt the situation was minimized, that the language used softened something that should never be softened, that reputation was protected, instead of responsibility being fully acknowledged. And now, years later, people were watching closely to see if anything had truly changed. But what stood out most this time wasn't just the statement. It was the contrast. A clear divide within the same family. On one side, a younger generation willing to speak openly, to name the harm, to prioritize accountability. On the other, a more cautious approach focused on faith, family, and careful wording. And that contrast raised a deeper question: is this just about one incident, or is it part of a larger pattern? Some critics believe the answer lies in the family's long-standing structure, a system built on strict roles, obedience, and internal handling of serious issues. A system where difficult matters were often kept private, rather than addressed openly. So when something like this happens again, people don't just see an isolated case. They see a pattern. A pattern that's becoming harder to ignore. One response, in particular, stood out. It introduced an idea that resonated with many, that forgiveness does not mean trust, that you can acknowledge faith while still demanding accountability, that protecting victims must come before protecting reputations. And for many watching, that shift in perspective felt significant, because it challenged something deeper, the idea that silence equals loyalty. Because sometimes silence doesn't protect, sometimes it enables. Of course, there may be things happening behind the scenes, legal advice, private conversations, complexities the public will never fully understand, but public statements still matter, words matter. And in moments like this, people listen very carefully. For many, this response simply wasn't enough. Not enough clarity, not enough accountability, not enough change. And perhaps the most revealing part of all isn't what was said, it's the difference in how it was said. Because that difference tells a story of its own, a story of a family at a crossroads between old patterns and a new reality. The legal process is still ongoing, more details may emerge, but one thing is already clear. People are watching more closely than ever before, and in situations like this, every word matters, every silence matters even more. Because when those in positions of influence choose not to speak clearly, others will speak for them, and the story will continue to write itself.